Hey guys, we are getting ready to do our last skills review of the week. This is skills review 3. There are 2 before this. If you haven't done those ones, go and do them first. But I am going to do the same basic thing. I'm just going to kind of walk you through, do a practice problem for each problem so that you kind of get a refresher on how to do them, and then you'll go and do them on your own. So let's go ahead and get started. Question 1 says, multiply, show your work. Remember that if I just have a number written here, Ms. Tolson's not going to know what I did, so I need to make sure I show my work. Now, when we multiply a decimal times a non-decimal, it's not quite the same as adding and subtracting because my place value, if my decimal lines up, it doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the decimal on top and my whole number on the bottom. And I'm going to multiply out just like normal. So I'm going to start with my 2 and I'm going to go 3, 7, 5, 1. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 7 is 14, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 more is 3. Just like that, not doing anything with the decimal yet. Now I'm going to go back, do the same thing with the 1, 3, 7, 5, 1. So 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 1 is 1. And I'm going to add those things just like normal. Remember, this is my placeholder, either a 0 or an X. 6 plus 0 is 6, 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 plus 1 is 8, 5 plus 3 is 8, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So now I have this really big number, but remember, I was multiplying by a decimal point. So in my number with the decimal point, 15.73, there are 2 spaces behind the decimal point. So the decimal point went 1, 2. That's exactly what my decimal point's going to do here. It's going to go 1, 2. So my actual answer is going to be 188.76. However many decimal places there are in the equation, that's how many decimal places you move it over after you solve. So my answer is going to go right there just like that. Okay? So that is multiplying with decimals. I am going to erase just a little bit of this so that I have room to do this next problem. But you can go back and watch that again if you need to. So this next problem, number 2, says subtract, show your work. And it gives me 2 fractions and I need to subtract them. So just like with addition, when I subtract, I need to find a common denominator. So the interesting thing about 10 and 5 for my sample problem here is that I can use 10 as my common denominator because all I have to do is multiply 5 times 2, right? So I'm going to multiply 5 times 2 and 4 times 2. So I'm going to end up with 9 tenths minus 8 tenths equals 1 tenth. And that's my answer. Simple enough. Just find the common denominator, subtract it across the top. Simple enough. Okay. Number 3, it wants me to use the standard algorithm to multiply these numbers. So their problem is a 3-digit times a 2-digit. So I'm going to do a 3-digit times a 2-digit as well. So 6 times 8, I should phrase it differently. 8 times 6 is going to be 48. Make that 4 real small. 8 times 2 is, 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. There we go. And 8 times 7 is 56, plus 2 more is 58. Now I'm going to put my placeholder, either an X or a 0, and I'm going to do the same thing with my 4. 4 times 6 is 24. Cross out that 4, I'm not using it anymore. There's a 2 there now. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Not using that 2 anymore. And 4 times 7 is 28, plus 1 more is 29. So now I'm going to add all these together. And, I don't know why I put the addition sign down there. It should have gone up there. And my answer is going to be 34,848. That's my answer to that problem. Okay. Next problem says, round that number to the nearest 10, 1, 10th, and 100th. So I'm going to write my number a little bit bigger right here. And I'm going to start with A right here, the nearest 10. So if I'm looking at the nearest 10, I'm looking at this number right here. Okay? I'm going to round to that number, and then there should be nothing behind it. But to round to that number, I have to look at the number to the right and see if it's at or above 5 or below 5. That's going to help me know if I need to round up or down. So since my number right here is at 5 exactly, I'm going to round up. So I'm going to round to 120. That's it. That's my whole answer. Rounded to the nearest 10. Okay? Now, for my rounding to the nearest 1, same thing. I'm rounding to this number, but I've got to look at its next door neighbor to see if I'm rounding up or down. Okay? So my next door neighbor is a 4, which means I'm going to round down. So my answer is actually just going to be 115. If I had rounded up, it would have gone to 116. Okay? But because it was a 4, I just rounded down. But when I round down, basically all I did was I got rid of all of these. That was just extra number stuff that I didn't need or didn't want. Okay? So now to look at my 10th place, that's my 4 right here. That's in the 10th place. Again, I'm going to look at its next door neighbor, see if I round up or down. Looks like I'm definitely going to be rounding up. So my 4 is going to become a 5. Just like that. And then, again, rounding to the nearest 100th, I'm going to look at 9. I'm rounding 9, but I'm going to look at its next door neighbor, see if it's up or down. And 1 is a really low number, so I'm going to round down. But when I say round down, I don't actually mean like make the 9 and 8. I just mean that it's gonna stay the same. So it's gonna be 115.49 with nothing after it. That's kind of how I round down, is I take that 1 and I get rid of it. So that's kind of my version of rounding down with this. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And let's look at the last problem. There was 3/4 of a cake left over from Hannah's birthday party. When she and her sister came home from school the next day, they ate half of the leftover cake for a snack. How much of the whole cake did the girls have for their snack? Write an expression to represent this problem. Solve the problem. Show your work with labeled visual models, numbers, or words. Now, this one, I'm a little stuck. I don't know what kind of problem I'm doing yet, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a picture of the cake and show the 3/4 that they ate, or I'm sorry, that were left. So they ate 1/4 of it. So this is my 3/4 that's left right here. And they ate half of the leftover cake for a snack. So cut that in half. This is looking familiar. What if I redraw this and I do my 1/2 and my 3/4 like that? Interesting. See if you can figure out what the expression would have been for that. And on your skills review number 3, remember that these fractions are actually different. I changed them so that I wasn't solving the whole problem for you guys. But I think you'll recognize this format that I used right here if you've been doing the math assignments for the last week or two. So that is your skills review 3. Good luck.